Yeah, first and foremost, I would like to say a big thank you to everyone, all right, for inviting me. My name is Idris Adelakun. I'm a mayoral candidate. I'm a professional engineer in the province of Manitoba. I'm a certified project manager. I'm also a certified professional in engineering management. I'm a Scrum Fundamental Certified. I completed my master's degree program in biosystems engineering from the University of Manitoba. And I also completed a PhD in leadership, and my concentration is organizational management. I've been working in the Canadian business organization for over 9 years. I manage teams, I manage projects, and I manage resources. And I strongly believe that I can transfer my skills to lead our city and move it to an enviable height. Well, that's Idris for you. Apart from that, I also teach, but that is not full-time, right? I'm also an instructor, so it's all good.
Okay, lovely. Do you want to go into our topics, or?
Yeah, if you want me to talk about my platform or topics, it depends on.
Yeah, we're going to go through each platform that's on the board.
Okay.
So we're going to start with transit with Emma Honeybun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, take it away.
Thank you. I'm Emma Honeybun. Thank you for your time again.
Yeah.
I have some follow-up questions for you, but generally I just wanted to ask how you feel about the current transit system, and as mayor, what would you do about it?
Yeah. Thank you very much for that question. The first thing I want to do is to ensure we have more safety in terms of a transit system. But right now, what I've done so far is to have a conversation with people and they understand what is going on. And most people are not comfortable, right? One of the things we have to do is to ensure that we make it more safer. How do we do that? That's the question. So right now, my plan is to ensure that strategically there are some locations whereby that are prone to violence. We need to ensure that we have more, police in those areas just to monitor the area, not, to, cause any issue with anybody. But there is a need to keep a close eye on those areas and ensure that, they can try to stop any kind of violence in that area. Another thing I want to do is to ensure that we work with our social non-profit organizations just to ensure that if we have some issues in terms of mental health addictions, we have to use them to also help us, rather than using police officers all the time, to address some issues so we can free our police, right? So it shouldn't be use of force only. There are some issues right now in terms of safety where we need to use social services rather than force. So there's a need to work together, collaborate, and make sure that we work as a team. We use more cadets as well to patrol, but from my own perspective, it goes beyond using force only. But there is a need for us to do something right now just to make sure that people are safe when you are trying to body us.
Thank you. You pledged to incorporate a Winnipeg Transit Police Force. Can you elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah. Yeah, so that is a long-term goal, right? It's not something that's going to happen right now because my word is my bond. So anything I say, I have to do it. So the plan is by the time we're able to generate more revenue, we are going to have a transit force, whereby they can actually dedicate to transit only. But you need more money. It's not something you're going to do right away. So what I'm trying to propose is a short-term goal and long-term goal. The short-term goal is just to use the existing resources, like maybe 8 police officers, just to monitor those areas that are prone to violence, right? But long-term goal would be by the time we start generating money, because I want to create more opportunities, then by the time we have that, we can now think about establishing a Winnipeg Police Force.
Thank you. Are you expecting pushback to your plans to incorporate the transit police force, and how are you expecting to handle that?
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. With my skills, I have a PhD in leadership, so and my concentration is organizational management. So I know how to collaborate. So I'm going to collaborate with the federal and with the province, and because it requires a lot of funding, and even there will be some pushback. Oh, do we need that? Do we need it? But it's about business case. You let people understand why you need something. So by the time people see the reason behind that, they will join it. And one thing about me is this: I like to celebrate small wins. When you start something, in terms of a short-term goal, when people see that it's working, they will buy the idea of going with you when you propose a long-term goal. So I know there will be some pushbacks, but you have to figure out how you can collaborate with everyone to make sure that they're on board. Leadership is not about my own agenda, it's about everyone. You have to bring everyone together and make sure that we have the same kind of vision. But you need to let them understand where you're coming from.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay, next we're gonna move on to roads with Caleb Buick.
Thank you. I'm Caleb Duick. I'm covering the issue of roads. I want to know generally what you think about how to deal with the issue, then I'll have a few follow-up questions.
In terms of roads, for number one, we need to, from my own perspective, we need to do the road very well. All right, let me say roads because it's more than one. But the point is, we have to manage how we do it. When I become the next mayor, I'll be the guy going on the street. I won't just sit in the office, right? Because we need to make sure we monitor our projects effectively and make sure they are doing it right. My own priority right now is to change our budgeting structure. Currently, we have a traditional increment approach whereby when you do a project, maybe in the last 2 years or 3 years, you carry it over, you do it every year. At times there are some roads, maybe you don't need to do it every year. You can save the money and you allocate the resources to other areas. So I'm going to change it to priority-based budgeting approach, whereby we look at what is important to Winnipeggers and let us focus on all those projects. So if we do this road this year, if it's done properly, maybe we don't have to do it next year. Then we can save that money. But the moment you have already allocated resources this year, you have to do it, whether it's good or bad. So there is a need to restructure from my own perspective in terms of construction. And we have to, work with the bidders as well, make sure that we have some kind of rules and regulations when they are doing road construction as well.
Right. How do you propose to fix existing roads so they don't simply deteriorate every year? That's a huge time and expense issue. Fixing roads every year isn't sustainable.
Yeah, and that is one of the things I just mentioned right now. I spoke with some, people. The way it works, if you want to do something where you spend more money first, then you don't have to do it again. Because if you spend, let's assume, one bidder is saying $10,000. I'm just giving an example. Another one is saying 7,000. Maybe 7,000 you have to do it again next year. They don't just do it very well. But 10,000 maybe you have to do it in the next 3 years. You look at return on investment. As a project manager, you have to evaluate all the stuff. So by the time you do the evaluation, then you have to pick the one that will be able to save money, not just to do it every year. But my mentality is, as an engineer, I know how it works. If you do something well, you don't have to fix it all the time. So my plan is to look at our bidding process, look at how we, give contract to people, and there's going to be an agreement. There are some issues too. There are some exceptions, maybe snow and some others. I understand that, but on a good day, if we're able to manage it effectively, we don't have to do it every year. So we have to look at all our bidders, who is going to do it well for us. So we don't have to spend money all the time. These are taxpayer money, and we have to spend it judiciously.
Right. Do you have a plan to ensure that snow is cleared out?
Yeah, if you look at my plan, it's part of my platform. My plan is to ensure that it's not only about only clearing snow on time, but also, sidewalks. If you look at seniors, some of them, maybe we have to make it more accessible. we need to ensure that we clear on time, but it requires a lot of money too. And that's why I'm trying to say that we can save some money on some other areas and ensure we allocate it to other areas that are more important to Winnipeggers. So my plan is to ensure that we clear snow on time. It's part of my platform on the website as well.
Okay. Do you have a plan to get people out of their cars and encourage them to use active transportation or public transit?
Yeah. So if you look at my platform too, any new construction we have to incorporate active transportation, because now if you're saying, oh, I want to start right away, you don't have a lot of money right now. I know it's really sad. So anytime we have a new construction, we have to make sure that we have some kind of sidewalks, cycling and some pedestrian. Make sure that at least we can have more active transportation, and that is part of my plan too.
Okay, thank you. Those are all questions I have.
You're welcome.
Awesome. So we're going to move on to active transportation with Rachel. Hi, I'm Rachel.
Yeah.
How important is active transportation to you, and what do you plan to do about it?
Well, if you look at it, even in terms of health-wise, it's very important to me because by the time people can start, working, you can engage together, we build community together. It's not only about being in the car, moving around the city. So by the time you have all those kind of active transportation, in terms of health, it's good. In terms of community engagement, I can just be walking around with my friends, we can chat. It even makes life more, lively. At least, let me tell you one thing, isolation is not good. But when you have a place where you can engage, I want to go and meet my friend, let's take a walk, you can share ideas together. So in terms of health-wise, and in terms of building community together, it helps. In terms of CO2 emission, clean energy, all those things, they are more important. So if you are solving one, you're also helping other areas as well, right? So CO2 emission, we've been clamoring for that as well. So that's one thing that is also going to save that, right?
Are you dedicating any funding towards active transportation, and if so, how much?
No, I did not. And the reason why I'm doing this is because my word is my bond. The plan is to assess. As a professional engineer, you don't just promise what you cannot do. And that's why I'm always careful about my word. So the first thing is to assess all those stuff. What do we have on ground? That's why I mentioned we are going to change our budgeting structure. We can't continue to do the carryover, but we have to allocate certain resources to that. And my own style of leadership is to listen, communicate, engage with Winnipeggers. We are going to have meetings regularly and discuss. I'm just a servant. I want to represent you. I'm not the boss. I don't see myself that way. So there's a need for us to look at what we have and say, okay, how much can we allocate to this? Because my focus is more on homelessness. That one is very, very important. So we'll look at it and say, well, what is the priority? Then we can now assign, resources to that. But the plan is to allocate some resources, but I don't have a specific number for that.
You mentioned earlier that you plan to add active transportation on road construction projects. So is that on all new road construction
Yes,
projects?
it's going to be
or
on
certain
all.
ones?
It's going to be on all because it's not only even trying to do that. We want to make sure that we link them together, we connect them together, so that people can move from one location to the other without saying, okay, well, I'm going to stop there and board another bus. So we have to figure out how we can, link them, and people can easily connect with one another.
And one of your other promises is to manage traffic efficiently during road construction. So what does that look like for cyclists or for roads with bike lanes?
Yeah. So if you look at it right now, at times I go out there and see what is going on in terms of road construction. You have all those kind of barricade and some blockade. Nobody is doing anything. If we want to do a construction, there should be a specific time. Do it on time so people can easily move around the city. But right now, at times I'm frustrated, and I'm like, we can do better than this. So there's a need for us to have an agreement with the bidders. Before they even start, there will be like kind of a stringent rules. These are do's and don'ts. But if there is no, plan on that, they can do anything there. But we have to consider the Winnipeggers as well. But they don't feel comfortable. If I don't feel comfortable, I don't think you'll feel comfortable too. So we need to figure out the kind of approach. The way we do, our bidding process, we have to change that. So that if we plan to do within 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks. If anything is going to happen, we need to still make sure that it's a bit accessible for people, so that people will feel comfortable to live in the city.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you too.
So, okay, I am going to ask you about homelessness. So, what do you think about homelessness in the city of Winnipeg, and what do you plan to do about it?
Thank you very much. It's one of the reasons why I'm running for mayor of Winnipeg. I have to be honest with you. Anytime I go to downtown, I just feel like, you know what? I have my friends. Yeah, I see them as my friends. You know, everyone the way I see. I can afford to pay my mortgage, but there are some people they can't afford to even live. You know, like in their house. So to stay there. But one thing I want to do is to act, not just to be talking about it. So I've already committed to 800 housing units within 4 years. If you look at my platform, that is huge. And the reason why I'm doing that, if you look at the statistics right now, we have over 1,000 people that are homeless in our city. The reason why I'm proposing 800 is because the indigenous community have already started working on that. So they have some housing units. By the time we had them together, it should be able to make up to the required number we need. It's not only about trying to provide affordable housing, it's also about trying to prevent it from happening. We don't have to wait until people become homeless. So we need to have some strategy in place. Number one, let's assume that I have a friend, and maybe due to one reason or the other, he can't afford to pay his rent. We need to work together as a team, as a community, and figure out how we can support one another. So my first commitment is 800 affordable housing units, but it has to be low barrier, and we have to look at some houses in downtown that are not used right now. We have to change our bylaws and ensure that we can modify and make some changes and build and make sure that we make it available. But another thing I'm trying to do is provide 24-hour safe spaces. Although we currently have that, but I want us to expand on that, because what is going to happen in fall? This is fall, right? So it's getting colder, frostbite. So you have to think about that, but we have to provide something. It's about short term and long term, because we can't build 800 housing units this year. So we have to provide safe spaces right now, so that they can still keep warm, and starting from next year we can start doing something. But it requires a lot of regulations, but we have to change the narratives. We can't wait for another 1 year before we get everything approved. It has to be done right away.
With your pledge to provide 800 multi-use housing units, how much will this cost?
Yeah, I've done the calculation, the business case. It's going to be around $30 million, if we have to build. But now, we don't have to build all those stuff. That's why we're going to use some housing, so we won't spend up to that. I don't think so. I can show you something, just for you to know that I'm not just talking. So what I've done so far, I think I don't have the stuff here. I've been working with some builders, so we came up with something like this. You can see this model. So we have this kind of model, and we've already done the estimate, how much it's going to cost, how are we going to finish that within 2 months and some other stuff. But we are not going to build 800 of those. So we are going to convert some old houses in downtown, and we are going to build some. So we won't spend up to that amount that I'm proposing.
And where is this money coming from?
Good. So we can tap from federal funding. There's about 1.2 billion or something like that. So we are not going to get the whole money, but we can get some from the federal, from the province, from the city. Then another thing is, if need be, if we are going to do fundraising, if need be. If not, we have to find other ways. But the plan is to look for those resources from federal, from province, and from the city, and add everything together. Don't forget, we are going to use some houses in that, so that's why we don't have to spend a lot of money. But we are going to work with those people that own those houses. It's not about just taking it from them and saying, you know what, it's not your house any longer. When people see result, they would like to join the team.
And when you say you want to change some of the bylaws, what ones in particular do you want to change, and what bylaws would you want to implement?
Yeah, for example, I mentioned about homelessness right now. if you look at housing, right, and they will tell you, oh, you can't have a tiny houses in Winnipeg. In some other jurisdictions, they have it, but our bylaw doesn't allow something like that. So if something is safe without compromising safety, why not? If it's working in other jurisdictions, why not here? So why can't we come together and figure out what is going to work for Winnipeggers? Then we implement. So it's about trying to bring it to the table, right? And let people understand where we are coming from. So we can't continue to do what we are doing and still, expect everyone to feel comfortable. We need to think outside the box.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have. We're going to move on to Sierra.
Right, I'm Sierra, I'm covering the police budget. I was just wanting, what are your general feelings towards the Winnipeg Police Service and its budget right now?
Thank you very much for that question. Well, as I already mentioned earlier, the first thing I'm going to do is to have a conversation with the Winnipeg Police Board because they are independent on their own. There are some things you can do. But my plan is to be part of the board as mayor. Then we can, engage, have a kind of conversation and discuss. In terms of their budget, I'm not planning to reduce their budget right now. You know why? You look at the current state, they don't have enough in terms of, resources, but the challenge is, by the time we start addressing all those underlying issues, even the police will say, you know what, we need to reduce this budget. But when you still have them addressing all those things they are not supposed to be working on, for example, maybe social, services stuff that can be handling all those stuff. By the time we start addressing those ones, say, police, maybe you should just hold on to this one. But we have to come together. We sit down together. We look at the data. By the time we start lowering that, then they can say, well, you know what? They will be the one to say, you know what? Let's reduce the budget. So it's a matter of collaboration. We don't need division at this period. We need to unite together in order to move the city forward. So, but we have to do the analysis. Come together. We rub minds together. We reason together. And we look at it. And if need be, we can reduce with time. But we need to address all those underlying issues right now.
You're mentioning those underlying issues. What are some of those underlying issues in your eyes right now?
Poverty, affordable housing, homelessness, addictions, mental health. All those ones, they are very important.
For sure. And do you think the mayor is responsible for the negative perception of the police force that Winnipeg citizens have of them right now? Why or why not?
My own style of leadership is to ensure that we work together as a team. My own way of leading is to work together. So even if the police, they have one thing or the other, we'll come together and we'll talk about it. I observe this. There's something called constructive criticism, right? You come together because you want to move the city forward. By the time I say, you know what, you are not doing well, how will you feel? If someone should do that to me, how will I feel? But if I say, you know what do you think if you do it this way? You will still accept that, right? Rather than to say, hey, you are not doing well. Do you get my point? I can work with anyone. I've been working with teams like people, but you have to figure out what is the issue. Do we need some training here? Do we need to empower people here? Do we need to talk to one another here? Do you need to provide your own advice? So my own philosophy is just to, have a conversation, but I'm not going to, step on toes on what doesn't concern me, but we can work together and provide a piece of advice. And that's why I want to be at the Winnipeg Police Board. So we can have more stakeholders that can contribute. It's about how can we move the city forward, not how we can divide it. We don't want to.
Awesome, thank you. Those are all the questions I have.
You're welcome. Any other question for me?
Then we're moving on to crime prevention with Calcutta.
Hi, my name is Kelvin, so I'm going to be covering the issue of crime prevention.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to know generally how you feel about crime prevention within the city and how you think that it can be better in the future.
Yeah. Right now, what I'm thinking is I propose 5 basic, I have 5 points there, but I'm going to summarize them. I've done my research that we can get some funding from the federal in terms of a youth crime prevention program. All right, we need to engage our youth. One of the things is to collaborate with them, get some funding, be free sport and some other stuff, and that will help in some aspect, not only one thing, right? Number two, when you look at the way we address issues right now, we think, oh, everything has to do with force. And that's why I mentioned about social, like a non-profit organization. They have to support us in terms of crime prevention, because you can't be using police all the time for all those things that they are not supposed to be working on. I want them to focus on what is more important, like all those challenging tasks, not, oh, somebody is doing this or doing that, then other people can still help them in doing that. Then another thing I want to look at in terms of crime prevention, poverty. I think I've already mentioned that earlier. Because when you look at all this stuff, you have to also support families too, but there are some stuff that you can't do within the city. You have to work with the province. If you have a dysfunctional family, what is going to happen? So, but there are some stuff we can't really do, but you have to work together with the province. If the parent, maybe if you don't have, maybe you are getting some support from the government, and suddenly you lose your child, what is going to happen? They will stop the fund. Then what is going to happen? You don't have money, enough money to take care of yourself. It could result to anything. But there are a lot of things we have to look into. All those underlying issues, we have to work together with the province. Why are we doing this? Who are those, who is, let me just put it this way. When I look at the statistics, you will see that some are affected than others. And we need to, figure out how we can look at all those numbers and say, how can we make sure that we are fair in what we do? Equity in everything we do. And I think that is going to really help us to address all those stuff. But the issue of crime is something that we have to look from different angles. Not only police, we have to look at what is causing crime. Why is it happening? Then we have to start preventing from happening. So there are all those underlying issues that we have to work together, which is beyond the scope of city only, but we have to work with the province as well.
And then you mentioned that you wanted to collaborate with the Winnipeg Police Service, obviously, and the police board to add more foot patrols and seek federal funding for youth crime prevention
Yep,
programs.
yep.
So for the foot patrol stuff, how much do you estimate that to cost, that addition?
Yeah. So if you look at my own philosophy is to do the analysis first, to see how many police officers do we need to address all those challenging tasks. As an engineer, you don't just say, okay, I will do this, I will do that. You have to do the analysis. But this plan is about, okay, well, we are going to work with the, police, cadets, but you have to look at it, numbers, and allocate resources. But we need to manage those resources together. Maybe we need 5, maybe we need 10, but I know that there are some issues right now in the city whereby you need police to address those ones and free them from all those, maybe they have to take some people to the hospital and this and that. So other people can do that, right? So that's what I'm trying to do. You have to look at the numbers, and then you can now decide, okay, I think we need 20 more of this. Then you can start from there. Don't forget, I mentioned about priority-based budgeting approach. We are going to change things. We can't continue to do it this way and expect the same result. Don't forget, look at 8 years, 12 years. What is the current thing? I think we had about 10-year plan for homelessness. Where are we? That means maybe what we have is not working for us, Then we need to look at it. And that's why I want us to do all those analysis and figure out what can we do. I focus on result, right? And that's who I am, maybe as a professional engineer. You want to make sure that you get results. So I won't say 10 right now, but we have to look at numbers and allocate resources for that.
And then what are your plans to address violent crime towards Indigenous women and girls within the city of Winnipeg?
That's a very good question. The first thing I want to do is to call the stakeholders, right? Call them together. Because I believe that some organizations, they've been working on this. I know that for it. But what I want to do is to make sure that we sit together and say, how can we support? Let me be honest with you, we have all the resources in Winnipeg. We just need to make use of the resources for the benefit of all. And that's why I'm not proposing to, create new things. The only thing I'm proposing, you see, is Winnipeg Police, as I say, is long-term goal. But we have some organizations that have already started, helping some people, but they don't have enough funding. And that's why I mentioned about priority-based budgeting approach, whereby we need to allocate those funding to those things that are more important to Winnipeggers. My own style is to call for a meeting or even do some kind of a survey. What do you think about this project? If Winnipeggers, the majority are saying, let's do it, we'll go for it. It can be my own personal preference. I can propose, maybe people don't see it that way. You're not leading yourself, right? So it's about supporting those organizations that have already started working on that. But we have to come together and say, how can we address this? But it has to be a collaborative effort.
Thank you, those were all the questions I had.
Okay.
Just encompassing everyone's questions or topics, you speak about wanting to do analysis for everything before really getting started. How long do you think these analyses would take for each of these projects?
Yeah. So if you look at it from, for example, my own, the first thing I want to do is homelessness, which I want to address. But I've done the analysis. You can see where I'm coming from.
Okay.
And it's because it is very important. I've done the model, What I need now is money. It's number one priority. Because it's affecting other areas. You get my point, right? So number two, when I look at other questions in terms of transportation, the first thing is, why can't we maintain what we currently have? We've talked about that. Do we need to do this one every year? The moment the first 3 months, I went to CBC yesterday, they had an interview with me, and they asked me a question. I said, the first 6 months, when I become the mayor, everyone will be surprised. Because I'm going to be working, and you're going to see the result. So within my first 6 months, everything will be done in terms of the analysis, and we'll start implementing, because it's not about just talking, it's about doing it. You get me? Because you need to have some committee, you need to appoint them and some other stuff. So by the time they do that, you have to do their findings. We need to do what is going to work. We can't be doing trial and error. No, because it's not my money, right? It's everyone's money. So we have to spend the money well. And that's why I have to be sure of what I'm doing. For example, if you're an engineer, you can't just sign something. You need to know what you're doing. Because if anything happens, engineers, they die by their mistake. But doctors, they bury their mistakes. So if a building is going to collapse, engineer will say, oh my goodness, I made a mistake. So you have to make sure that you do everything right before you start implementing. But you need to have a solid plan. But in terms of homelessness, I've done the analysis. We know how much it's going to cost, this road, this and this and that. Because that's why it's number one priority on the list.
Okay.
The rest, we have to restructure, change some things, then we can now proceed.
Thank you. And if you were to bump to someone on the street and you had 20 seconds to be like, vote for me, what would you say?
I will tell them, this election is not about name, it's about plan and transparency and integrity and result. So if you check my website, you will see, if you're okay, I think I have to consider. I'm not saying, oh, go and vote for me. Look at what I have. If it's going to help the city, go for me. If not, vote for another person. But the plan is, people need to do something. We need to do something differently right now. But if you are thinking about names, where are we right now? So, and I look at my skill set as a professional engineer, as a certified project manager, with my skills in leadership, I know how to work with people. And I've been doing that, and I've been successful. And anything I do, I'll be honest with you. When I was a student, maybe that would tell you that if this guy is doing something, he's going to do it well. When I was a student, I did a diploma in engineering. I came out with distinction. Before you can come out with distinction, you have to know what you're doing, right? When I was doing my master's at the University of Manitoba, I represented the University of Manitoba at an international conference in Ontario, and I won the first place in my poster presentation. Then I won the Graduate Thesis Award for my master's. I went to Saskatoon to receive that. In my PhD, I took 20 graduate courses, and I had A+ in all the courses. Is that easy? That tells you that I look, at details. Anything I do, I like to succeed. I don't just promise things, but I want to do it well. So the reason why I'm telling you all those ones, just for you to know the kind of person I am. My word is my bond. But that homelessness, if Winnipeggers should vote for me, they will see a positive change in our city.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming in today.
Yeah.
That's all the questions that we have. So, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. And I
You
have
have a busy day for the rest
yes,
of the day?
I'm still going to reach out to I have some flyers I have to go and distribute, but I've already committed to this. I'm like, okay, well, I have to come here. Yeah, so it is what it is, right? So you guys have already checked my website, right?
Yeah.
I know. I can see all those questions you're asking, and actually the reason why I was able to answer it because I came up with a plan by myself. I wrote it. They didn't write it for me. So that's why I was able to answer all your questions.
Thank
Any
you.
other question for me?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'll
Thank
walk
you
you
too.
out. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.